Okay, looks like we're live. So this is going to be a follow-up to the video that I recently released. Why wasn't the Wii U successful? For anybody that joins in later or watches the playback, so that you know, um, to get that out there in the open. I mean, most of the people that follow me probably already know this, but this is more so that I have something I can send people to in case they ask me about it. This will just make it clear for my specific channel. Um, there is a longer form of this on Shadow Fox's channel where I, and Sandstorm went over some of the stuff that went on for the E3 2011 press conference for Nintendo. I was in and out during that time. I had a lot of interruptions, so I didn't quite get to say everything I would have said anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and get that started. Potentially Jack and Jay may be popping up a little bit later. So when they get in, and they'll just be part of the discussion. And then speaking of which, Jack he just sent the daggone message in the chat. It's cool. I understand. Look, life is busy. So like whenever you get in, cool. But before I get into the whole Wii U thing, just because there's a little extra petty part of me that wants to go ahead and put this out there because I called it 2 days ago when it popped up. Because y'all know me well enough to know I'm petty enough to do it, and petty enough that I would do it. But what's right here? What is right here? So I would be very cautious about anyone trying to promote their accessories for the supposed Switch 2, because they probably don't have the physical machine themselves. Where do we find ourselves now? Nintendo said it wasn't official. And where was it? Where was it? I already had pulled it up. I had already pulled it up. So here's what they say after that. Here's what they say after Nintendo goes ahead and says, yo, that wasn't official. They were made based on supposed leaked information, something that they shouldn't have had access to, which means that they didn't have the physical model in their offices to go ahead and make stuff for. So let me go ahead and stop sharing that. I mean, if they tell people that they have a black market Switch 2, how do you know it's an actual Switch 2? How do you know it's an actual? How do you know it's the actual physical machine if you bought it off the black market? How do you know it's the real thing? Because if you activated it and you tried at all to connect it online, Nintendo would know. So how do you know that that's the real thing? And if you do have one and Nintendo knows that their stuff is missing, because they likely would have stock being monitored on those, and they know something's missing. So if you do decide to wait until after the launch date to activate it, that one's probably going to be bricked as soon as they get it online. And thank you, Sandstorm, for saying that in the comments. Yeah, everybody hit the like, please. If you in here, hit the like. It'll help the channel a lot. Look, I am 5 people away from 1,000 subscribers, so it'd be appreciative if y'all could get the interaction going, because that will draw more attention to it, which means more people will be watching, which means that somebody else will likely subscribe because they either find me funny or they want to talk trash to me. But either way, I'm on board for either one. But yeah, now that my little petty squabble is aside, nothing big on that. That's just one of those things. It's like, don't feed into it. If you see all these leaks and things happening, don't feed into them. Chill out. because you don't know for sure if that information is true or not. If it's true, you'll be mad that you found out early. And if it's not true, you'll be mad that you spent time investing yourself in it. So, like, chill out. Don't focus on it. It's not necessary to worry about right now. What's out right now? How many games do you have available to play? If you've got games to play, why are you worried so much about this one machine that you were told they would reveal between the time they said it and the end of their fiscal year, which is March 31st, 2025, this year? If they haven't said anything about it, they've had a reason. Whether you like the reason or not, they've had a reason. They didn't say anything. At this point, we don't even know if it's necessarily a holdup on Nintendo's end either. It could be a holdup on one of their third-party partners. We don't know. At that point, let's just chill out. Let's not get riled up and upset over it. Let's not get focused on that, especially when there's companies just trying to sell you stuff that may not even actually work with the thing that they're trying to sell it for. Not a hint of the user interface, not a hint of the OS, not a hint of the actual games coming to the machine have been said anywhere publicly that I particularly know of. There are people speculating, there are people guessing, but there's nothing that really says it. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and drop off that specific point. And again, here's the subject. Here's the subject for the discussion right here. Why wasn't the Wii U successful? And again, Sandstorm, Shadow Fox, and I did do a discussion on this already. We did talk about this. I still wanted to do it over again because people will ask me, and I know I didn't get to say everything I wanted to say in that particular podcast because I was off and on. If you go back and watch it, and once I'm done with this, I'll go ahead and put the link down in the description. I meant to do that beforehand and I forgot. So that's my bad. But I'll go back and put the link to that one in the description. So if anybody really wants to sit through that, you can, because I definitely said some very insulting things about Adam Sessler several times that I didn't even remember until I listened back to it. And I had a nice chuckle at what I said. But I'm just going to go ahead and get on to the Nintendo E3 2011 presentation. And if I do get up for a moment, it's probably because one of my kids attempted to murder the other one. So I'll try to keep them up. Hold on one second. Look, I didn't just started, and they already trying to put each other in WWE and AEW wrestling moves. Oh no, you ain't wrong. You are not wrong on that, Sandstorm. This is the single biggest weight that any console has had that I know of. Yeah, it's the biggest one that anyone's had that I know of, and they have said nothing. Nothing. they have said nothing. They have buttoned up, kept their mouths shut. All right, but I'm gonna get into this real quick. Firstly, let me know if you can't hear it. I did turn the volume down so it's not like loud, but you should be able to hear it. So if you can't, just let me know and I'll try to adjust the volume for it real quick. But yeah, let's go. And I caught Reggie at the worst moment there. Caught him at a horrible moment. Let me go ahead and full screen that.
Of course, there is one more order of business left for us today: to make a proper introduction to a new gaming companion. You might remember how the Wii name began to make perfect sense once you started hearing it as Wii. It was clear how much fun we all had playing together, even with people who weren't gamers before. But in thinking about a new Nintendo
That cough
system,
was loud by whoever that was.
We knew the prevailing thought would be this: yes, the game will probably still be right for all of us, but could it also be a perfect fit just for you? And the answer to that question is an emphatic absolutely. In fact, we're so convinced of it that we put that pronoun right in the name. So today, welcome to the world of Wii U.
They really didn't get on with the name, and I don't blame them for that. I didn't much either.
It's a system we will
But
all
hold on.
enjoy together.
See, for this particular video, if you go scroll down to the comments, there will be people who will say that Nintendo never called it a system or a console. And at the timestamp, actually, is a couple seconds before it, so it'll be about 4018. That's one of the first things that he says about it when he introduces it. It's a system. It's a new system. And yet there are people that will go, that you go down, scroll the comments and on this video. I think this one is the GameSpot one. Yeah, it is, because I wasn't even looking at the logo. But this is the GameSpot one. And people will go down to the comments. There's a comment that is less than a year old, still perpetuating the same incorrect information, that they never said it was a new console. They were just talking about it being a gamepad. First thing that he said, it was a system. New system, new console, interchangeable. It's one of the first things he said, talking about it. And this is following up their 3DS presentation. So they just talked about their handheld. You mean to tell me that they're going to go from talking about their handheld to a physical tablet machine that would also be handheld? They're not going to actually talk about their home console? But we'll continue.
Together, but also one that's tailor-made for you. The other word associations are easy. Is it unique, unifying, maybe even utopian?
I don't know who wrote that, but they need to be smacked.
The answer is also yes to all of this. And here's the reason why. This is the new controller for Wii U.
That's another thing people didn't pay attention to. He said it's the new controller for it. He never said it was just the gamepad. He just said it's the new controller for it. So if he said it's the new controller for the platform, that means it's tied to something else. So the speaking was very specific. There was no mix-up of words from Nintendo when it came down to this. They were speaking very specifically on what they were talking about. So, again, I sit there and wonder, like, where did this idea come from that they never mentioned it was a console? Well, I know where the idea came from. We all kind of know where the idea came from. Well, at least those of us that were paying attention to these things, we all know where the idea came from, and we'll get to that point in the discussion at some point. But that's also something to make note of. He said it's the controller for the platform. Never said that the controller was the platform. It's the controller for it.
It's different from anything you've played before. It's infinitely complex and yet perfectly simple, all at the same time. It can change the way you game personally and it can change the way you interact with your family and friends. To begin explaining, let's take a little quick peek at Wii U in action.
And who would have seen any of this and would have thought that the Wii was doing this stuff?
Hey, it's time to watch some baseball.
Okay.
You see the Wii U right there.
And a runner on second.
The Wii U is right here.
On the mound, and here comes the 3-1
Console right there.
Swing and a miss. 98-mile-per-hour fastball.
All right, hold on 1 second. Gotta let Jack in. But you can see the console right under the TV. And I didn't even think about the fact that they used the white Wii U as opposed to the black one. But they used it with that TV showing the console, then showing the gamepad. So you were supposed to pick up with your eyesight, if your eyes are good enough to catch it, that there was a white console under the TV, and then you had the white gamepad. That was very easy to spot. Hold on, I think his stuff is stuck loading. You might have to drop out and come back in, Jack. I think you're buffering a bit on me, because I tried to add you and it was stuck rolling. But it's one of those things where it's like you see what's going on, you see the things that are happening, and this stuff is right in front of you. Very easy. I get where this would be confusing for someone. They think, okay, this is New Super Mario Brothers, the one for the Wii. But even looking at it, it looks like a lot clearer than the one from the Wii. But the Wii didn't have nothing with a touchscreen with it. Nothing with a touchscreen that was set up to it. And you'd have to say that the console, that the Wii was built with that function in it, and it doesn't have that function. It legitimately does not have that function to have anything that uses a touchscreen or a camera, which you quite clearly see on the controller. But I'm going to move over to the next point that I really wanted to go over, because I don't want to sit too long on everything. But as you see me scrolling through here, if you see the images that pop up, look in the lower right corner, you can see that Wii right under the TV. It's a share from the new controller to TV. And I think that's what they hinged on, using that type of stuff to catch people off guard. But we'll go right here. I think this is where the next spot I wanted to stop at anyway. You're using the browser. Shift your stuff to the TV from your tablet on the browser. Graphically, I don't know. Nothing on the daggone Wii is happening. Nothing on the Wii is doing that. You might get a video playing looking like that on the Wii, but that's it. You tell me all these people that was in there couldn't figure this out?
I believe this video may have answered some questions, but it probably raised several others too. So please let me provide a little more explanation.
Yeah, I would say this, but PS5 uses PS4 controllers. if you really wanted to go that route, PS5 can use PS4 controllers. Xbox Series can use Xbox One controllers. So I don't know if that's a good metric to go by, to be honest. But then again, you can also use Series controllers on Xbox One. But again, that's a different discussion for another time. So that is a bit of a stretch itself, being able to use the old equipment with the new equipment. You could use GameCube controllers with the Wii when it launched. So does that make the Wii itself a GameCube? No, that wouldn't. But that's how people were treating this, which I still found that to be weird. Now, remember, like I said before, I was writing articles or editorials at the time. At this point, I think they would have been Yahoo Voices. Associated Content was bought out. But I was writing editorials on Yahoo Voices about games and technology when I found stuff that was interesting to me. And that was one of the things I had talked about in my editorials, like how that didn't make any sense to me that people were so confused. But people were confused.
Up until now, home console games have to occupy the TV screen in order to be played. But the new controller for Wii U with 6.2-inch screen built in means...
Again, he said the controller for the Wii U. So the controller is not the Wii U. The controller for the Wii U. This indicates two separate devices.
You won't need to give up your gameplay when someone else comes into the room and wants to watch a TV program. Of course, it's backward compatible. So all Wii games, Wii remote controllers, and other accessories such as the Wii balance board can be used. For example, to weigh yourself with Wii Fit, there is no need to use the big screen TV. But this device is designed to appeal to all people, particularly the most experienced and dedicated players. We believe.
And that was because people kept saying that the Wii wasn't for gamers. It was for the casual market. Hate to break it to y'all, but every console's for the casual market, but that's a whole other discussion to be had. But that was specifically said because so many people said that they didn't like the fact that the Wii came without a controller with traditional controls, which, if you want to be frank, the gamepad had the traditional controls that everyone wants on it, plus some stuff. And if you didn't like the gamepad in and of itself, you had the Wii U Pro controllers. You had these things. So either way, there was a means to play games with the regular controllers. Even though people tend to act like that didn't exist for some reason. But moving back on.
You will love the variety of play controls enabled by the new controller. It includes 2 analog circle pads,
which became analog sticks,
pad, as well as both ZL and ZR buttons, and the addition of L and R buttons. Also, it enables the Rumble feature, but that's not all. The Wii U controller also includes a touchscreen, a microphone, speakers, and accelerometers, a gyroscope, and an inward-facing camera. Just as with Nintendo 3DS, Wii U was created so that the widest variety of games can be supported. That means those aimed at experienced players who can handle a number of buttons and a circle path using both their hands, and those games which can be played really intuitively without the need for any button or stylus input. However, please understand that it was not designed to be a portable video game machine, even though it shares some characteristics. The images displayed on the new controller are generated only by Wii U.
Okay, so again, talking about the controller itself, and then the images are generated by the Wii U. So that separates them. This is what, the third time that there's been a statement of separation between the console and the controller. So again, it's not that they didn't communicate things effectively, is that they weren't in control of the narrative that got spun after that communication was had. That's where the major problem comes from.
Data is wirelessly transmitted without latency issues. You can play in a number of ways. Connect with an HD TV in the traditional way.
Which the Wii wasn't HD, so that should have been one of the first hints for everyone that listened to and watched this whole presentation, that it was separate from the Wii, that it was a different device. And again, you can see it right there under the TV. Looks different from the Wii. It's got a more rounded shape than the Wii does. Wii was more blocky. So again, people sitting there running stuff the way they did. You are very much correct there, sir. There was no way that those games was going to be played on the Wii and maintain the look that they did. Now, they would have to gone the same route that Call of Duty did with several games where they brought the graphical look of it down, but they couldn't have been on the Wii U in that state. They could not have been on the Wii U in that state because not the Wii U. They couldn't have been on the Wii in that state because it just wasn't made to do that. It just wasn't made to do that. But hey, this is mostly so that I have a comprehensive thing. Like if everybody, because I know if I make another video and I make mention of misinformation, someone's going to ask me, and I'm definitely going to link them to this. I don't care how long this goes on, even though I'm probably guessing around an hour and a half total time. But yeah.
And you can enjoy the most up-to-date, high-quality HD images, even without using the screen in your hands. Or you can place the new controller by...
We'll back that up a second. He said without using the screen in your hands.
High-quality HD images, even without using the screen in your hands.
So, again, this is a reference of separation. It's already been referenced as a new console. And several times there has been reference to separate the gamepad from the console, meaning that they are two distinct physical things. It's noted that it's an HD console and that you can use it without the gamepad. But everybody was confused. Remember that. Everybody was super confused.
Or you can place the new controller by itself on a table and play without the need for a TV at all. Or
you can play with the TV or without.
To use two screens at the same time. The example you saw on the video earlier, such as playing baseball, golf, using the new zapper, are only a few of the...
Oh, I'm so mad that never came out. I am so mad that particular thing never came out. So mad that never came out because I so badly wanted the games that would have been with that, and it never came out. I was so ticked off with them about that. Like, it's like, damn it, y'all showed me something I would have really liked to be able to use. And that could have made shooters way more fun to play. And you didn't give it to us. That in and of itself was a new zapper so that you could have, well, yeah, it would have been the attachment for controllers. But it was a new zapper that would put the gamepad on it, that it locked into place on there. You could use the gamepad as an extra screen when you were playing the games. And I was so mad they never released that. I was so mad it never got released. But then I also think that several of the third parties that they were supposed to be making games with had backed out on them, so that idea got scrapped. But I would have really loved, like y'all could have done a new Link's crossbow training. Y'all could have so many things y'all could have done, but you never did it. And I'm mad as hell about it. Oh, don't remind me of Ghost Recon. Don't remind me of Ghost Recon. They could have made a new Ghost Recon. Yeah. Because they did talk about using the console without the gamepad. So if you can use the console without the gamepad, that would also mean you can design games for the console without forcing use of the gamepad. Outside of maybe just if you wanted to make a one-screen game for the Wii U, you were very much able to do so. I mean, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze kind of proved that. But there's also the fact that like you didn't necessarily have to make it a dual screen game. You make it single. Make it single, just allow it to be processed to the gamepad. Allow it to be streamed to the gamepad. So if somebody wants to do off TV play, they can still do that. But they didn't take it that way, and they came up with multiple excuses as to why that didn't work. Resident Evil 7 with that attack with the I don't know. Then again, I'm not the biggest fan of Resident Evil 7, so that's probably why I don't necessarily care so much for this particular idea. I'm not the biggest fan of Resident Evil 7. So, not that I think the game is bad. I'm just not the biggest fan of it. But let's continue. My rant's over.
We decided on this new structure for Wii U.
Dog Void, I didn't say it was bad. I'm just not that big a fan of the game itself. The storyline and stuff don't hit with me. But the game is good. The gameplay is good. It just don't hit with me. That's all. You ain't got to vouch for Capcom in their first person game that didn't hit well with me.
Because we want to create a strong bond between games, your TV, and the internet. And also similar one between you, your friends, and your family, all interacting in the same room. This can include web browsing, using the big screen for sharing the photos or videos you found online, or enjoying video chat on the Wii U controller.
Yes, everybody. Does everybody remember how the Wii allowed you to do video chat? Everybody remember how the Wii let you do video chat? Hold on, somebody. So all of those DS and 3DS games were hindered by a second screen? What about the ones that you could play that were ports of games from prior consoles that only used one screen and then the bottom screen was blank? Did people forget that games came out like that on the DS and 3DS? I didn't. But then also there are tons of people who use the 3DS for emulation for past consoles and stuff like that. So all of that's hindered by having two screens? Ooh. Hindered by options. You're hindered by options. That's what it sounds like. You're hindered by choice. Because all you had to do was not use the second screen, and all of those resources would still be available to the game. So that's in and of itself a complete misnomer. But I was saying that back then. It was like, y'all could do single screen games if you want. I don't know why you decide that it has to be dual screen. There are several games officially launched for both the DS and the 3DS. Don't ask me to remember the names of those right now because that will not happen. But there are several that focus solely on really using one screen. And if there's anything that's on the other screen, it might be a map. It might be a map. But if you only have the map on the other screen, are you really using that screen all the time? No, you're not. You're not focused on that screen all the time. You're focused on where the map is. Again, not where the map is. You're focused on where the action is, not where the map is. It's not that it's hindered. It's that they didn't want to do it. Short, sweet, they didn't want to do it, or based on the information that we got now, because of the whole FTC versus Microsoft thing, there were backdoor deals involved that said, "Hey, you can't put a game on this console at all. We can't let you do that. If you're contracted with us, you can't put a game on this console, or you can't put this specific game on that console." Oi, 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 oi.
Even while
But
watching
remember
a
the video
TV
chat
program.
option that we had.
It's a new structure for home entertainment. But to be sure, the most important factor for gamers is
Why you gotta say that? They ain't in a steel cage match. Hell in the Cell. Get it right. Oh man. But he's already made several points that I've already hit on here. I could let this go the long way through them, but there's one particular timestamp I want to get to. And that's here, right here. The third-party developers are talking. Oops, skipped over it accidentally.
Sample of what they're saying.
Once we saw the new console together with the new controller, my mind immediately started racing to.
Hold on. Here, did we not hear? Did we not hear Peter? Did we not hear Peter? He said new console with the controller. This is from a third party. But I guess we could say he was on payroll for Nintendo, right? He was on payroll for Nintendo. EA, with their unprecedented partnership, was on payroll for Nintendo, right? Yep. Treating use of the Nintendo's gimmicks as a zero-sum game has been the most damaging aspect of Nintendo discourse since 2005. I always wonder why people use that word so negatively when a gimmick is just the hook of something that draws you to a thing or potentially repels you from it. Like if the hook doesn't work for you, but it's just an idea or a thing to get people to buy stuff. Just like constantly upgrading graphics is the reason people buy graphics cards. Better and faster processing is why people buy CPUs. If you can understand that, then you understand what a gimmick is. Yo, what's up? What's up, J Biggs? And yeah, Game Pass is technically the gimmick of Game Pass is that it's a rental service. Whether people want to say that or not. But Peter Moore, EA says, hey, we saw the system and the gamepad. He didn't say we saw the gamepad. He said the system and the gamepad.
Together with the new controller. Once we saw the new console together with the new controller.
I'm going to let him repeat it one more time.
Once we saw the new console together with the new controller, my mind immediately started racing to what we can do with this in the world of sports.
New console and controller.
Shock and amazement, from the team.
I call it the Swiss Army knife of controllers. It does absolutely everything you could want.
This new controller really revolutionizes the traditional pack.
Connectivity, advanced graphic,
an engaging interface.
The ability to have asymmetrical gameplay. So one player can be doing one thing while another player can be doing something else on the TV.
Wow, highlighted again that they are separate things. One player could be doing something while another player does something on the TV. Wouldn't that require two separate things to be able to do that? Right? That would require two separate things to be able to do that. Like, something that has a screen here and then you have your TV screen there. So that would require a separation physically, especially at this time. Again, this was 2011.
友達の対戦やってるのを阻害せず、隣の
See it right here. Without intruding upon your friend's match, you can play a different game on a separate screen. Well, I understand why you focused on that. I focused on it several times. Like a lot of people don't. A lot of people, when you bring that up, will say, well, they dropped it because it was underpowered. Underpowered compared to what? Because the PS4 and the Xbox One weren't complete at the time. Nobody, even Microsoft and Sony, didn't really know what those machines were going to be. And the only other thing that would have been more powerful at the time would have specifically been PC. Would have still specifically been PC. That's it. It would have specifically been PC. That's all. Because PS3 and 360 were definitely not as hardware capable, didn't have the memory bandwidth or the RAM that the Wii U had. So, but when you bring that up to people, for some reason their brains glitch out. Like they just don't get that part. It was underpowered compared to what at the time it launched. Hell, before it launched, what was it underpowered in comparison to? Because unless you actually had something better than it besides a PC during that time frame, there was no hardware for the console market that was more powerful or capable. Dark Void, if you ever in my house, we gonna fight. Do that again. We gonna fight. Me and you, we gonna scrap. And we gonna scrap for at least half an hour until I get all the frustration out from that comment. But no, it just doesn't make any sense to go with that narrative when that narrative didn't make any sense. Because even at the time, Sony and Microsoft hadn't finalized their machines. They hadn't finalized their machines even up to that E3 in 2013 before the consoles launched that year, as noted by the fact that Sony took an hour to get themselves ready and fix things based upon the reactions people had to the Microsoft conference that year, where Sony was originally supposed to launch with a camera and like a motion control type thing, and they didn't because of the reactions that Microsoft got. Sony and Microsoft's consoles were going to be identical when they launched. Again, people somehow forget these things, but it's all there. It's all available if we're looking for it. But let me finish. Let Harada finish talking.
A full console experience that's getting streamed. I have a little headphones. My wife will be asleep, and I
getting streamed
headphones and
listen to. He said getting streamed. It's getting streamed to the gamepad, meaning the gamepad is not processing anything. Meaning there has to be something else powering what's going on.
が別の画面を持って楽しむこともできるし。
A full console experience that's getting streamed. I have little headphones. My wife will be asleep, and I, put in headphones and play a full like hardcore console gaming experience.
That is an excellent point. Because they had the GPU. The Wii U was the first console to launch with it. And then right behind that, the PS4 and the Xbox One also both launched with GPUs, which meant that you had your CPU able to process and stream information and data and stuff. And your GPU could do the same thing. So Wii U was the first console to launch with that. But people pretend that that's not a thing. And then you also got to consider the eDRAM that's in the Wii U wholeheartedly got ignored. The sound processing chip in the Wii U also got wholeheartedly ignored, which those were things that would have helped with certain issues when it came down to processing of data and streamlining stuff, but they often got ignored in use.
Experience in bed on this, on this smaller screen. That's a really revolutionary thing for me as a gamer.
But it also means we can make games of a sort that we were never able to make before.
It's a phenomenal piece of technology. It's a platform, I think, that's going to really revolutionize what's happening in console.
But then you all turned your backs. You all turned your backs. Well, not all, but the majority of you turned your backs and didn't revolutionize video games. You fell back on, ooh, it's the pretty thing. It's the pretty thing. Look at how pretty it is. That's what ended up happening. Fell back to what was the prettiest versus actually expanding gameplay, expanding styles of play, expanding the way people interacted with their video games. Yeah, that stuff's starting to happen now because there's no choice but to do it. But when the opportunity first presented itself and you all seem to be on board, somewhere, somehow, someone got things mixed up and twisted up.
We're planning on putting Darksiders 2 on the new console.
That luckily did come.
Launch.
鉄拳16年の歴史の中で、実は任天堂さん据え置き機では初となる鉄拳になります。
Batman Arkham City. It's going to be on the new console.
In Assassin's Creed, you can just imagine what the multiplayer will look like with multiple screens. And our Ghost Recon Online will leverage
They never did that part either.
Connectivity.
They never did that. They never did multiplayer with multiple screens for Assassin's Creed, did they? I don't remember that actually ever happening. I think that got cut. I think that got cut. If I remember right, that got cut, didn't it? For Assassin's Creed. That option got cut. So you were supposed to be able to play Assassin's Creed with two assassins active at once. Not to move away from the narrative, but it's amazing to me. We went from 500 megabytes shared to 8 gigabytes to 12 gigabytes of RAM, where Nintendo went from 1 to 3 and got all of those 8 gigabyte. Oh, man. Oh, yeah, there were definitely cheers for Arkham City. There were definitely cheers for Arkham City. Man, there were... Oh, man. Oh, yeah, TG, I hit on that earlier in the stream. I hit on that immediately at the beginning of the stream. I definitely hit on that at the beginning of the stream. You clicked to the beginning. I definitely hit on that because I had mentioned something about that a couple days ago. So, yeah. Oh, everybody. I don't know who wouldn't have cheered Arkham City at the time. Oh, that is sinful. You bought it and never you bought it and never played it. Ooh. Oh, man. Oh man. The Wii U version, Arkham City Armored Edition, is the better one to play because of all the gamepad features and usage. Now, if you just want to play the straight game, go ahead and play it on your Switch. But if you want to play it with all of the features that the gamepad had, which enhances, because I've played it. I played it on 360 and then I played it on Wii U. I much prefer playing on the Wii U, even though I know that they didn't quite do the work that they needed to do to optimize that game as best as they could, but the features on it are worth playing it for. Ghost Recon never happened.
Of the new controller.
You know, they really know how to keep us developers on our toes.
It seems like Nintendo sort of heard the voices of the hardcore gamer.
We couldn't be more excited to be able to bring the power of EA Sports to Nintendo's new console.
It's not just more of the same. It really is opening up a whole new world of.
Oh, you traded in your Wii U.
This is exactly what it takes to shape the future.
So we all heard that, right? We all heard all that. We all listened to all of that, all that praise and all the wonderful things that were said that came to nothing. that came to nothing. Origins and Blackgate on Wii U didn't really use much of the console features, so that's why I said Arkham City itself was Arkham City had a better hacking system in it than Watch Dogs did on the Wii U, which Watch Dogs was the game meant to be portrayed for the hacking and all that stuff, and Arkham City had it. Oh yeah, I remember the EA handshake. I remember it well. But yeah, it all came to nothing. It all came to nothing. Like a couple games happened and then all of the rest got completely abandoned. All of them. Which is disheartening and sad at the same time. Yeah, playing Watch Dogs on the Switch is just as good as playing it anywhere else. And then people forget that game got hindered on PC to keep parity with the console versions. But hey, I'm a Nintendo guy though, and only a Nintendo guy, and I don't pay attention to that type of stuff and question why it happens. Nope, not once would I do that. Why would I do that? Why would I do that if I'm a Nintendo only kind of guy? But give me a second. And we're going to jump to the G4 spotlight for Nintendo. Oh, the Sims and Dark Souls. Sims, for one, would have been super easy on the gamepad because you would literally just have both screens be the same thing, but you use the stylus to move the screen around and touch on everything, or you could use the controller. It would be like having a combined PC console version of The Sims to be played on the Wii U. And Dark Souls, having all your inventory and stuff right there where you could just tap it and you can use the stuff that you need, or you could equip the stuff that you need, and it's always available to you. Skyrim, so many dang games, so many games. Far Cry, Fallout. Remember, Fallout couldn't be done on the Wii U, but they were able to go ahead and make a Pip-Boy to be used with the second screen. They made an expensive Pip-Boy to be used to have a second screen experience for Fallout. But it couldn't have been done on the Wii U. Yep, not with those modular engines at the time. Nope, not once. No, sirree, couldn't been done. All right, let me go ahead and pull this up. So, Sandstorm, you remember this. You remember this very well. Ooh, this infuriates me sometimes.
Welcome back to Spotlight Nintendo, brought to you by Burger King.
Yeah, we're back
in the Nokia Theater, bathed in the post-press conference, confused.
Where was the confusion? Where was the confusion? We all saw that last bit of stuff, minus the last 10 minutes of that Nintendo press conference, and this was right after that. This was right after that. Where was the confusion? This happened right after that. What was the confusing thing? You had Nintendo say it was a different console with a gamepad, and you had third-party developers say it was a different console with a gamepad. You've heard many different ways how they talked about how the gamepad could be used separately of the console and in conjunction with it. Where was the confusion? Where was the confusion? But let's hear what they say is the confusing part.
Afterglow.
Yeah, obviously, we're not the only ones. I think just about everybody who's walking out of here is talking about what we just witnessed on stage. The significant thing is the announcement of what was once called Project Cafe that is now called
Just a note, his voice has always annoyed me.
Wii U.
And then you look at, I'm sorry, there are telltale signs when you know somebody wasn't in on the discussion for something. There are telltale signs when you know somebody's a part of something, but they weren't in on the discussion about it. They were kind of just lumped in at the last minute, potentially. I have a feeling somebody else was supposed to be there with them. And that person, for whatever reason, couldn't make it, and he ended up there. I get the feeling that that's what happened. Oh, what's up, Jazzy Jefferson? And damn, Jay Biggs. But that's something to say. Like, you were in a situation where you wouldn't have been as cognitive as you normally are, and you were able to pick up on that type of stuff. That shows to me that this had to have been intentionally done. I wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't put it past that he was supposed to be there, but he couldn't make it. I would not put it past that he was supposed to be there. Nah, I don't think it was Morgan. Morgan's, honestly, I don't think Morgan really wanted to be around Adam at all. She tried to do her best to avoid him outside of situations where she had to be with him. And if there was a choice, she chose not to be around him. Oh, man. That's something to say. That is something to say. That they went through all that trouble to do that. And this is where it spawned from. And then it was the following year, Rev 3, which Adam Sessler was a part of Rev 3 at the time. Then it got perpetuated more.
off camera. We were still having a discussion about whether or not this is a new console
and again,
controller.
Hand up. Like, hold on. I wasn't part of this discussion. I wasn't in this discussion. Like, don't add me to that. I wasn't in this discussion. But he's got the earpiece and he's now hearing, no, you need to go along with this. Because his tone changes throughout the discussion. Just pay attention to the fact that he's... let me actually full screen this. But pay attention. He's got this earpiece in right here. And they're telling him what he should be saying. Even though at first he's probably very confused. Because you got an earpiece there, you got an earpiece there, and you got an earpiece here. So, yeah. Yeah.
This is more because Nintendo wasn't saying the word console, but it's high def, so it's got to be one, right?
You know, I'll tell you, it sort of reminded me, I was at the...
Nintendo didn't say console. No, they didn't say console specifically, but they did say new system, which a new system would be equivalent to saying a new console. That's a
iPad announcement. Same vibe. Everyone's like, what is that? I don't understand. Like, I'm confused about what I think it's one of those things that looks like you just really need to get your hands on it and play with it to really...
Yeah, you're right, Sandstorm. Look, I'm just going based on what we saw from what I'm doing. Because if I would have sat throughout the whole thing, yeah, they would have said console like 11, 12 times. But from what I went with, they said system. So the system is a console one way or the other. And then you had third parties say console. So where was the confusion? Well, yeah, but again, I'm doing this based on what I've streamed. I know that he said it and that it was said multiple times by Nintendo, but it was also said by third parties. Just going based on what was going on with this particular stream so that anyone who's listening in who may not have paid attention to that type of stuff or may not have been in it, because I did jump through several parts, they don't get confused. That was basically where I was trying to go with that. But as everybody who's listening now, my people in my chat have definitely said, yes, they said console a lot. So there's no excuse as to why no one knew it was a console.
We get a concept of what it is, and then you can define it.
Right. And I think maybe we should focus on what they said it's not. It's not a portable games device.
Right.
It can be used as a standalone when you're playing certain games.
But you can't take it in your car. You can't take it away.
You cannot take it. It will play all existing Wii games.
Right. It'll play existing Wii games, but clearly it's also playing them in high def. You know, the high def was mentioned. They didn't necessarily say what resolution, if it goes all the way to 1080p.
Right.
But, you know, these are...
I always wonder, why did that matter so much? Why did it matter so much? You know it's high definition. Does it really matter at that point? You've already made the differentiation between standard definition and high definition. Why does it matter at that point? And even in their ticker, if you look at their ticker shows the information that Nintendo already talked about. It says Nintendo's Wii U controller. This says Nintendo's Wii U controller will feature 6.2-inch screen, touchscreen, gyroscope, accelerometer, camera, and backwards compatible with accessories. Oh shit! They said the Wii U controller is backwards compatible with accessories. I didn't even realize that before until just looking at their ticker. Well, technically, in the way he said it, he's right, because the Wii U does upscale the Wii games. It doesn't change their aspect ratio, but it does upscale them, because it kind of has to in order for the image quality to be decent enough on the screens or televisions, wherever you put them on. So it does technically upscale them, but that's about all it does when it comes down to Wii, is it upscales the picture quality to whatever the output you have is. But yeah, he was definitely trying to push the idea of the Wii itself, or the Wii U being just the Wii.
Clearly something that the Wii itself cannot seem to process as far as graphics go.
And then in terms of some of the video that we saw, we saw the Wii U and a Wiimote interacting with each other and then interacting with the main console as well. So
he's
interacting with each other and then interacting definitely
itself cannot seem to process as far as graphics go.
And then in terms of some of the video that we saw, we saw the Wii U and a Wiimote.
Yeah, and you can tell by the look on his face he doesn't want to say this. But he definitely said the Wii U and Wiimote and then the console. He separated Wii U from console. And I think that's just because whatever he's being told at the time, that's why that ended up happening.
Interacting with each other and then interacting with the main console as well.
See? The Wii U and Wii Remote working with each other, and then working with the main console. The Wii U is the main console. The gamepad is a controller that has a screen on it. But the Wii U is the console. They were trying to course correct him so hard right there. That's where that slip up came from.
Also, I don't know. They didn't.
I mean, it would strike me as an evolution of the Wii. It's just Nintendo seeming reticent to actually use the word console, to describe what the Wii U is. That's leaving me a little bit confused.
You are confused about everything in your own life. But I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. But you could tell that he was getting fed information on the fly. He was being told what to say on the fly because he started out one way and then simply rolled into another thing. And yeah, Adam straight up lied. Because not only did Nintendo say console during that conference, the third-party partners said console during that conference. So, there was no confusion unless you actively chose to ignore the words being said, or you already had a sample script and already came up with what you were going to delineate and speak upon about it. Because that's the only thing is y'all would have had to have gotten a script from Nintendo about what they were going to talk about and then figured out how you were going to disseminate that information incorrectly. Because there is no way in the world that you actually listened to what that was and then said this. No way you actually listened to that. And I'm not going to listen to more of it because I know if I listen to more of Adam Sessler, rage is going to build up inside of me. And we're not going to have rage build up inside of me because I know he was lying. I know what they did, what G4 did. And then this is right when G4, like right before G4 went under. Mind you, this is right before G4 went under. So something should have told them that this was not the best route to go. These people ignored the signs. They ignored all of the signs that they were doing something they shouldn't have done. But that is the origin point of people being confused. That in and of itself is the origin point of everyone being confused about the Wii U. And I will make sure that I link the original video that Sandstorm, the original video from Shadow Fox's channel. I'll make sure to put that in the description along with the links to both of those streams. So if anybody wants to sit through the full streams themselves, they can. The second one was the one I believe Sandstorm found that where somebody re-uploaded that because it went missing. So yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, no, this is one of the reasons that the Wii U wasn't successful, and it wasn't because of its name. It was because there was misinformation about the machine being promoted. There were people actively lying about what it was and what its purpose was. And there were people pretending that they didn't know what it was. Mind you, that these are all people who are part of the gaming press who had a chance to get their hands on the machine ahead of time. They had a chance to get their hands on the machine ahead of time. They saw what it was. They saw what the Wii U physically was. They saw what the gamepad physically was. They already knew. They already knew what it was and still pretended not to. Then you have mainstream media pick up the stories and things that these people give out because, hey, we may have a technology consultant who dives into gaming every now and again, but we're not really concerned with building our own story from the available information directly from the company. We'll take the version of it that's already been disseminated by the gaming press because that's their strong suit. That's what they're there for. So we take the stories that they've already disseminated, the things that they've already said. We take those stories, spread it out further to the mass market that they don't reach. Then it snowballs, 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 snowballs into what it ended up being. Oh, RJH, you good? I understand you. Trust me, I understand you trying to avoid all the Switch stuff. I got you. But it snowballed into misinformation being spread, and then people going into game stores saying, "Oh, hey, I want to pick up that Wii U for my son's Wii or my daughter's Wii at home," not knowing it's a whole separate console. Or people picking up the U-Draw tablets, which at the time, that was one of the worst things that could have come out at the time for them. But the U-Draw tablets weren't just for the Wii. It was for the Wii, for 360, and PS3. But people thought the U-Draw tablet was somehow the Wii U. Which is weird. I mean, I can understand for people who aren't in the know making that incorrect distinction, but it wouldn't have been hard to correct them on that either. But at the same time, once that information spread out and a bunch of people thought, oh, well, if it's just a thing for the Wii, then I don't have to get that thing for the Wii. I can just get more of the games. And I know that there were people who, because they didn't understand that the Wii U was a separate device, bought Wii U games to put in their Wiis and couldn't play them. I remember hearing about this happening multiple times over because of that misinformation spread that started with G4. Information was incorrectly spread and it started with G4. Well, I can't say it started with them because I don't know if maybe particularly they may have been told to do that by anyone. I don't know. But I do know that it was because there was incorrect information spread. And yeah, you're right. You're right on that. That there was a little bit of there was a little bit of a agitation from people about the Wii, especially because the last year of the Wii's life was pretty dry for the most part, which was a common thing Nintendo did. They didn't put out a lot of stuff on their consoles towards the last year of its life. That's what makes the Switch kind of an anomaly. And I hope that going forward, they realize that this is what they should do to keep momentum. Just have their console have, even if they're like low budget titles, keep going and going and going and going with more games. Oh yeah, no, I should say it that way. There were definitely people who had a hate boner for the Wii from its inception. But it caught on well enough that even the people that had hate boners for the machine ended up picking it up. So they picked it up, and then so many people with the waggle thing. I was like, do y'all just swing your hands around like this on a regular basis, or do you take your time and move around deliberately? Because I don't flail about like the wind tube people when I move in my daily life. I don't take this. I got hooked on something else. I don't take this and go to play a game. If I'm pointing, I'm pointing. If I'm doing this, I'm doing that. If I'm slashing. I don't wiggle around like that. Who did that? Besides someone who didn't know how to play a game. If you knew how to play video games, then your reflexes should have been good enough that this noodle hands wasn't a thing. That little tangent out the way. The Wii U got a bad rep for several things. But if there's anything that is the biggest factor in why it got a bad rep, it was the start and spread of this misinformation. That would be, to me, the biggest component of why that machine didn't do as well as it could have. I don't think it would have done gangbusters. I think it could have done better I think it could have done around the GameCube or maybe slightly better. But that's my personal opinion as far as sales go. But it would not have been the way it was treated if information wasn't incorrectly spread about it. So when people say, "Oh, what's the incorrect information?" Here, now you know for a fact. Here I have given you what the information was that was incorrect, shown you what was said that was wrong, and made it easy to again understand that, hey, Nintendo correctly communicated it, but from there, gaming journalism took it and screwed up the message on purpose. And then, like back then, it wouldn't have been easy for people to believe that. But like, well, why would they do this? This is where they make their money. But then you have 2 years later, we find out about Game Journal Pros, where they have a mailing list where they all share information among each other and decide what narrative they wanted to push together. And when that was discovered, gamers suddenly became dead. Gamers are dead. Gamers are trash. Remember that? Because we discovered that they were lying about a multitude of things. Because we figured out that they were lying about things. So if we can accept that information, if we can accept that information as a group, that we know that gaming journalists lied about a lot of things. When someone says, hey, they lied about this stuff with the Wii U and that information got spread out, why is it there's such cognitive dissonance between those two things? When we know for a fact that they colluded together to spread a message depending on what they wanted spread at a certain time. How do we make that? How are we upset that they did it? But then when someone points out that, hey, this is another instance of where that happened, it's like, nah, what they did wasn't, they didn't do that then. How blind would you have to be to not see this picture? I'm pretty sure that Stevie Wonder could see this. So that's what makes me sit down and think, like, where did the cognitive dissonance come in that, yo, they lied to us about all this other stuff, but they didn't lie to us about what these systems could do or what happened with them? It's yeah, there's no exact evidence on top of it to say that, besides what we know happened. That doesn't necessarily mean that they couldn't have had email chains where they deleted the information that they didn't want to keep. Like, at that point, you've already done the job. Why would you keep it if you don't need it? Because there's no way it started out that way. And yeah, Adam did mention Project Cafe. And Gaming Press saw the machine when it was called Project Cafe. So again, how were you confused about what it was? But I could roll on that tangent forever. I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and let that go. And go ahead and end this stream. Also, one thing I want to say, Shadow Fox is supposed to be having a Shadowcast tonight, so it would be cool if everybody could go over there and check that out. I may or may not be on it. I don't know. Just depends on what I'm available to do. Because if I'm trying to put my kids to bed, obviously I probably won't be able to be on there. But that's one of those things. That's one of those things where it's like it's gotten super confused for no reason. Yeah, I know, J Biggs. I know. I remember. Again, during this time frame, I was writing editorials for Associated Content, which ended up becoming Yahoo Voices. So I was well aware of all the changes at the time because I was keeping up with it. I mean, obviously I wasn't as aware as people that got direct access to the machine, but I was aware. So yeah. Yep. Yeah, I covered that earlier. I covered that way at the beginning of the stream. I covered it at the beginning of the stream just because I wanted to talk about it really quickly. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you, everybody that joined in. Thank you, everybody that was in the chat. It was fun, even dealing with Adam Sessler's very irritating voice. So, yeah, comprehensively tell everybody, hey, yeah, this is exactly why the Wii U had the problems it had. This is what snowballed out. Because if this didn't happen the way it did, then a lot of other things wouldn't have been a major problem. Like, yeah, there would have definitely been third parties who dropped off and all that other stuff would have happened. But the machine itself wouldn't have been looked at in the same way it was because of the amount of misinformation that was put out there. So that's it. Thank you guys very much for listening in. Keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games and peace out, everybody.